The train station was too bright for what she carried inside. Fluorescent lights flickered above polished floors where people moved like waves crushing, colliding, never seeing each other. In the middle of it all, she stood still. A red scarf creased and frayed at the edges hung loose around her neck, the color too vivid against her pale skin. It fluttered each time the doors opened, letting in cold air and fragments of city noise. Her fingers tightened around a small black phone. The screen cracked, notifications piling like dust. She didn't open them. Not yet. Her thumb hovered above a message she had already read 100 times. "They'll know what you did." The words burned behind her eyes even now. A voice called over the speaker's train delayed. Platform change, but it all drowned beneath the quiet storm in her chest. She looked up, scanning the crowd. Businessmen with headphones. A mother, pulling her child's sleeve. A man in uniform holding coffee. Eyes tired. Every face blurred into another. Yet she searched, as if the truth could have a face at all. The red scarf slipped from her neck and brushed the floor. She didn't notice at first. Her reflection in the glass wall looked unfamiliar, older somehow, hollowed by sleepless nights. When she finally bent to pick the scarf up, her hands shook. "He said they wouldn't find me." The thought came like a whisper, not entirely her own. She had believed him once, believed that the words sent online, hidden behind usernames and encrypted messages, would disappear into the dark corners of the web, harmless, invisible. But now, every ping from her phone felt like a countdown. A man across the terminal glanced her way just a second too long. Her breath caught. She turned, pretending to adjust her bag, pretending not to notice the subtle shift in the air. The hum of conversations seemed to dim, leaving only the distant echo of wheels against metal rails. Outside, wind howled through the open doors, carrying the scent of rain and iron. She pulled the scarf tighter, its red fabric brushing her lips. The same scarf she wore the night it all began. The night words became weapons, and secrets turned to screens full of rage. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Another warning. She finally opened it. Just one word this time. "Run." Her pulse quickened, the crowd around her thinning as the final announcement echoed across the hall. She took one step toward the platform and froze. Through the reflection in the glass, she saw them, two men in dark jackets, earpieces glinting beneath the lights, walking fast, eyes locked on her. The red scarf trembled in her hand as the world narrowed to a single breath, and then silence. The red scarf slipped again as she walked toward the end of the platform, its fabric catching the wind like a whisper that refused to fade. She clutched it tighter this time, pressing it against her chest as if holding it there could stop her heart from unraveling. That scarf had been her father's last gift. She was 16 when he gave it to her, handing it over with a tired smile before another night shift at the factory. "Red keeps you seen," he'd said, tucking a stray strand of her hair behind her ear. "Even in a crowd, someone will always find you." But now, being seen felt like the last thing she wanted. She found a seat near the glass wall, the cracked phone still warm in her palm. Notifications continued to bloom on the screen, each one a reminder of what she'd done, what couldn't be undone. A thread of guilt wound through her chest, tight and breathless. She had thought it was just words, just a movement, just justice for people like her, who were ignored, dismissed, silenced online. The sound of laughter drew her gaze. Across the platform, a teenage boy threw his arms around his mother, both of them grinning through tears. The train doors closed behind them with a hiss. For a second, she imagined her father waiting there, to his coat dusted with rain, his smile small but sure. But he wasn't there. He hadn't been for years. She blinked fast, her reflection blurring against the glass. The scarf's red threads caught the light again, and she remembered sitting at the kitchen table, sewing a small tear after her father died. The fabric had soaked a single tear that night, darkening before it dried, a mark she could still trace with her fingertip. It had been the only color in a life that kept turning gray. She told herself the online group had given her purpose, a place to belong, faces behind usernames who said the world needed a reckoning. That silence was complicity. That revenge wasn't cruelty, it was truth finding its voice. But truth had turned on her. Someone was watching. She felt it before she saw him. A man across the hall, same dark jacket, same stillness. He wasn't pretending to scroll through his phone anymore. His eyes followed her reflection, not her face. His calmness was too deliberate. She rose, her body moving before her thoughts caught up. The scarf trailed behind her like spilled color on gray concrete. She walked fast past the vending machines, past the flickering timetable screen until the noise of the crowd dimmed again. The train whistle echoed once, long and low. She stopped at the edge of the platform, chest rising, the word "run" still glowing faintly on her screen. Her thumb hovered above the delete button. For a heartbeat, she almost smiled. Uncertain. Then came a sound behind her. A single, deliberate step. She turned. The air had shifted thick and trembling, like the moment before a storm breaks. She turned slowly, pulse hammering in her throat. The man stood a few paces away, motionless, his face half lit by the flicker of the overhead lights. Not an officer, she realized. No badge, no radio, just a man who seemed too calm for a place that always pulsed with hurry. "Train's late," he said quietly, his voice low enough that it almost got lost beneath the hum of the station. She nodded but didn't speak. Her hands gripped the red scarf tighter, twisting it around her fingers like a lifeline. Rain began tapping against the glass behind her, soft at first, then heavier each drop, smearing her reflection, until it vanished completely. She felt invisible again, like she had always been. The man's shoes were scuffed at the edges, darkened by old rain and long walks. A faint tear ran along the seam near the toe. He wasn't from the world of pressed suits and clean desks. Something about him whispered exhaustion, the kind born from too many second chances gone wrong. When he reached into his jacket, she tensed, but all he pulled out was a worn leather wallet. A photo peeked from the corner, a girl, maybe 12, smiling with a missing front tooth. The edges of the picture were creased, thumb-worn. He caught her glance. "My daughter," he murmured, then silence again. Her chest tightened. For a moment, his eyes dark, wary, looked like her father's used to. Before the factory closed, before everything collapsed, there was something human there, something unspoken. "Do you believe people can change?" she asked suddenly, surprising herself with the sound of her own voice. He studied her, the rain drumming harder outside. "Depends," he said, "on whether they wanted to, or whether someone made them." She looked down at her cracked phone. The messages still glowed, threats, warnings, fragments of chaos she had helped set loose. Once, it felt powerful, righteous. Now, every word felt like an echo she couldn't silence. Thunder rolled overhead, deep and distant. She thought of the people she'd never met, the ones arrested, the ones whose lives had been torn open because of a cause she'd stopped believing in. She thought of how easy it had been to type fury into the void, how hard it was to live with the sound of it now. He took a step closer. "You're not the only one thereafter," he said softly. "You just got seen first." Her breath caught. Was he warning her, or leading her somewhere darker? For a fleeting second, she wanted to trust him, wanted to believe there was a way back, that the scarf could still mean safety, not guilt. But the storm outside broke open, thunder crashing through glass and light, and his reflection disappeared with hers in the flood of rain. She blinked once, and he was gone. Rain lashed against the glass as she stumbled through the corridor leading to the upper level of the station. The crowd had thinned, replaced by echoes and the occasional rush of footsteps. Her breath came in short, uneven bursts. She didn't know if she was running from him or from herself. The sound of thunder rolled over the ceiling, deep and close. For a moment, she pressed her palm against the cold wall, closing her eyes, willing her heart to slow down. The red scarf had slipped loose again, dragging behind her like a trail of guilt. Some people carry more than just bags, she thought faintly. They carry silence too heavy to set down. Her reflection caught in the dark window, pale face, hair clinging to her cheeks, the scarf's red bright and bleeding through the gray. She looked like someone on the edge of disappearing. At the far end of the hall, the stranger appeared again. No uniform, no threat in his posture, just that quiet steadiness that unnerved her more than any chase could. In his hand, he held the scarf she'd dropped earlier, the same one she thought was still around her neck. For a heartbeat, she didn't breathe. He raised it slightly, rainwater dripping from the fabric. The gesture wasn't threatening, it was almost gentle, but it felt unbearable. "Why do you keep running?" His voice was soft, not demanding. Her throat ached. "Because I don't know where to stop." He stepped closer, slow enough that she could have left. Yet she didn't. His coat was soaked now, collar turned up against the cold. A few people passing by glanced at them, two figures caught in something too quiet, too tense. Their stares carried that thin veil of judgment, the kind strangers reserve for broken things they don't understand. A woman clutching a child hurried past, whispering something, pity or fear. She couldn't tell. A security guard paused at the corner but turned away again. Everyone always turned away. She looked at the scarf in his hand, the threads darkened by rain, heavy now. It wasn't just fabric anymore, it was everything she had lost trying to be seen. My father gave me that, she said softly, almost to herself. He said red means someone will always find you. He hesitated, then offered it to her. She didn't take it. I found you, he said, voice cracking under something almost human. Her fingers twitched at her sides, wanting to reach out, but terrified of what that meant. Outside, a train screeched to a stop, metal grinding against metal, drowning out the space between them. She turned as if to leave, took 2 steps, then stopped. The scarf lay between them now, half in shadow, half in light. And for the first time, she couldn't tell which side she belonged to. The scarf lay in the slant of dim light, a quiet line between them. She watched it sway slightly in the breeze that seeped through the cracked glass door. Every thread looked heavier now, like it had absorbed too many secrets to ever feel soft again. He bent down and lifted it, his hand trembling just enough for her to notice. I wasn't lying, he said. It was my daughter's. Her stomach dropped. She had one just like it, he continued, eyes fixed on the red fabric. Same torn edge, same faint stain near the corner. I thought it was gone after he stopped himself, voice breaking. After that day, the thunder outside rumbled again, lower now, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. She could hear the echo of her father's voice. Red keeps you seen. Only now, the words stung. Seen by who? Found by what? He looked up at her, something raw flickering in his eyes. Do you know why I'm here? She shook her head, though part of her already knew. The online threats the posts she'd helped write and spread hadn't just reached strangers, they'd reached him. My daughter, he said quietly. She got one of those messages the night before His voice fell to a whisper, lost in the hum of the station lights. She couldn't take it. Silence fell between them, heavy, suffocating. She stared at the scarf, at the edges she'd once mended, without knowing whose wound she was sewing over. I didn't mean, her voice cracked, shallow. It wasn't supposed to. He cut her off, his tone neither angry nor kind. You don't get to choose what your words become. Her chest constricted. She saw flashy screens lighting up in the dark, anonymous names chanting revenge, her fingers typing without thinking, believing she was part of something bigger. But it hadn't been justice. It had been noise, and that noise had found its way into his home. She backed up until her shoulder hit the cold wall. He took one step closer, not threatening, just unbearably present. I'm not here to turn you in, he said. The FBI already knows. They've known for weeks. Her breath caught. They'll know what you did. The message from before, she thought it was a threat. Maybe it was a warning. He held the scarf out once more, his hand steady now. She wore it the day before she died. I found it in the rain. Her eyes burned, tears blurring the red into something almost unreal. Outside, the storm began to fade, but the air inside stayed heavy, charged. She reached out, shaking, and touched the edge of the scarf. Red keeps you seen, she whispered, voice barely there. He nodded once. It does, he said, even when you wish it didn't. The station lights flickered again, just as they had when it all began. The same blinding hum, the same polished floors reflecting too much truth. But now the girl was no longer standing still. She was trembling, rain-soaked, caught between the weight of what she'd done and what she was about to do. The man stood a few steps away, the red scarf, his daughter's scarf, hanging limply between them. It no longer looked like a symbol of safety. It looked like something that had outlived its owner. She took a shaky breath. You said the FBI knows? He nodded, jaw tight. They'll come for you soon. They already have your messages, your usernames, your voice notes. She felt her knees weaken. The floor seemed to tilt under her feet. Then why are you here? He hesitated. His eyes, those tired, storm-colored eyes, met hers with something deeper than anger. Because when I saw you sitting there, I thought I saw her, my daughter. The same lost look, the same silence. Her breath caught. You followed me because I reminded you of her. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he unfolded the scarf, smoothing it gently with his palm. She was the kind of person who believed people could change the world with words, he said. You believed that too. Maybe that's why I couldn't walk away. The sound of a train pulling in filled the space, its brakes screeching like something alive. The platform shook. Around them, people hurried past, suitcases rolling, voices blending into static. But the two of them stayed still, bound by something heavier than time. I can't undo what I did, she whispered, but I can stop it from growing. He watched her, unreadable. How? Her Her fingers hovered over her phone, the cracked screen, still alive with messages from the same people she once called allies. She opened the group chat, scrolling past threads of venom and rage, past her own words. Her thumb trembled. Then she typed a single line: "This isn't justice. Stop before it destroys you too." And she hit send. It wasn't redemption, but it was something. When she looked up again, he was still there, still watching her, but softer now. He folded the scarf once, twice, then pressed it into her hands. "Keep it," he said quietly. "Maybe red doesn't mean being seen anymore. Maybe it means remembering." Her eyes burned. She wanted to refuse, but something inside her understood this wasn't forgiveness. It was a passing of burden. She nodded slowly. "I'll remember." The announcement echoed through the terminal final boarding call. The same voice from before. The same words. But this time, she moved as she stepped onto the train. She caught one last glimpse of him through the glass. He wasn't looking at her anymore. His gaze was fixed on the empty space she'd left behind, like someone watching a ghost fade. The doors closed. The train began to move. She clutched the scarf tight, feeling its weight, its history, its quiet redemption. The rain had stopped, but the world still shimmered as if it were crying. And as the station slipped from view, she thought, not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever. The city was quieter now. Morning light poured through a veil of thin clouds, washing the streets in muted gold. She walked slowly along the edge of the park, shoes damp from last night's rain, each step carrying less fear than the one before. The chaos of the station felt like a dream fading at the edges, still there, but softer somehow. Her phone was silent for the first time in months. No messages, no warnings, just stillness. The kind that once terrified her now felt like air she could finally breathe. When she reached the small apartment she had rented on the outskirts, the scent of old wood and coffee greeted her. She placed her bag on the chair and stood by the window. The world outside moved as if nothing had happened. Cars humming, children laughing, a dog barking in the distance. Ordinary things, the kind she'd almost forgotten how to notice. On the table lay the red scarf, cleaned, dried, folded neatly. The threads still frayed at the edge, but it looked lighter now, like a wound that had stopped bleeding. She ran her fingers over it, tracing the faint stain near the corner. "Red keeps you seen." Her father's voice echoed gently in her mind, followed by another voice, his, softer, breaking in the middle. "Maybe red doesn't mean being seen anymore. Maybe it means remembering." She understood now. Some things weren't meant to be erased. They were meant to be carried differently. She opened the drawer and placed the scarf inside, not buried, just resting, a quiet promise to remember, not relive. The morning sun caught on the fabric before she closed it, a brief flicker of color before the light faded. For a long time, she stood there, watching her reflection in the window. She looked older, steadier, her face marked by something real, not guilt anymore, but awareness, the kind that doesn't shout, only listens. A whisper of wind touched the glass, and she thought of what he had said about change, about choice, about seeing herself in the reflection of another's pain. For the first time, she didn't look away. "Sometimes love is not romance," she murmured to the empty room. "It's recognition." Outside, a train horn sounded faintly in the distance, threading through the morning air like a memory, trying to find its way home. She smiled, just slightly, half peace, half ache. The world hadn't forgiven her. Maybe it never would. But she had stopped running. She turned from the window, her shadow stretching softly across the floor. Some stories don't end with redemption. They end with someone deciding to live anyway.